Right, it looks like me and Raymond, we're going to be off in a minute. It's going to be an interesting day. We're going after bass. We're going after bass in numbers. We're going to put the Foxy lures against the fish lures today. Ray's got a couple of those other lures you got there, Ray.
They're the new Renaissance eels.
They look pucker actually.
Yeah, they do look good.
Yeah, they do look good. I do fancy the Foxy ones. The Foxy ones, the test of them is how many bass we're going to get on each one. If we can find the bass today. Foxy versus fish today. Right, this was the first drop on this day with a Foxy lure. We went straight out to a wreck that was in about, it was about 130, 140 foot. We've really struggled on the wrecks this year, finding most of the bass on the rough ground. So I was quite surprised as we were nearing the wreck on the first drift, it thumped over. It was on a Foxy lure, I believe it was an 80 gram with a blue back. At this minute in time, I haven't got a clue what I'd hooked, but it was trying quite hard to get back into that wreck. I was a bit concerned. Tide was still pulling now, so it was putting a good account of itself. You see a rod bent into it, and yeah, so far the Foxy lures went straight into the lead with the first few fish. As soon as I got this out and got it back down there, we was into another fish. It's a little bit choppier than we thought out there. Forecast was meant to be quite quiet, but it wasn't too bad. It was quite manageable. Yeah, I was well chuffed with that one. First decent sized bass on a Foxy lure. It's nice to have an alternative to Fiiish Black Minnows. Yeah, this fish put another bend in the rod straight away. This one was a pollock, I believe. Yeah, we're fairly early in the morning. Probably about 6 o'clock. Tide's backing off a little bit, but still pulling. This wreck's not too bad. All the wrecks we fish are quite tackle hungry, so you can't even think about going down there with a lure that's not weedless. I know a lot of people think I'm mad, should be using it. I've tried it. If you're using an open hook, you're just going to lose. I mean, you're just going to lose lure after lure. Time you spend retying rigs, just go with a weedless lure and stick to it. And yeah, this was a fine pollock. I don't believe Ray's had a fish yet. But I believe he caught up with me quite well later in the day. Beautiful morning. Best time to be at seas, like this time in the morning. If you don't get out there then, you're going to miss out. Nice little pollock on the blue back. We're down there. Oh, I'm into something. Yeah, he's in. He's in, but it feels Poundton-esque. Poundton-esque. Yeah, I've got a feeling over the pond. Yeah, my feeling was correct. First drift on a different wreck. This is one of our favourite wrecks, called Moonbase Pant. The wrecks have been a bit devoid of fish this year, but we found a few fish on the first wreck. And I think the fact that the weather's a bit nasty has put all the recreational anglers off, and a few of the commercials. We have them to ourselves. And I reckon the wind might be, we've got lots of white horses, but this boat's got an inboard engine. Makes it a lot more manageable in these conditions. If you've got an outboard, you probably wouldn't be able to fish. You've just got a lower centre of gravity. Right, I'm going to go down with a slow jig.
And you need to be fishing that side of the boat, mate.
Yeah, I'll go off the back.
It's going under the boat.
Yeah. That's what I like about backs of boats. Years of experience of fishing with Nigel. Never know which way you're going to go. The wind's picking up a bit. My weapons of choice there. See how the first drift goes and then make your mind up. I need to get more slow jigs. I ain't got that many slow jigs. The joy of this reel is I can control it with one hand. We're right on the wreck already. We're looking good. Felt something I felt a tap. A friend of mine was catching cod up in the water the other day.
Yeah?
Yeah. He said,
How far up in the water?
like 20 turns or something. I mean, I've never had cod. When I've caught cod, it's always been on the deck. I've done enough reguling to be fair, I keep my lures close to the bottom. Probably cost me a few fish, but I do alright. I have to say, Ray, that is very good drift. I'm going to drift right over this wreck, right down the middle of it. So that other wreck was holding a lot of fish. I've noticed that the last few times we've been there. Well, this is a bigger wreck. Last year was holding loads of fish.
But if we don't get a hit, then we know.
I mean, it's a good drift though.
Yeah, it's a good drift.
The last drift wasn't that bad. It was like.
But this is right up on the wreck.
Yeah. We got a slow jig down there and a rubber. But I reckon they were holding off the back of the last wreck. Remember that day we had a load of cod here, and then we had a load of bass?
Yeah.
As you can see, we've had a complete loss of audio. We seem to have found some wrasse there because one of them just had the tail off one of my lures. Ray just had a nice little black bream. He was playing around with some baited feathers. Black bream is something I'd like to get to grips with and do a bit more of that. I've got to work out my outfit to do it. They're a cracking fish and they taste well, they fight well, and it'd be something we can use the lure gear for. Just put a lead on with some baited feathers or something. Ray is catching up now on the fish front. Oh, not with the pounting, but we were both into pounting there. Yeah, we're hunting around trying to find some fish now. The weather's got a little bit better. It's still a bit choppy out there. I haven't got a clue what I'm waffling on about there. Yeah, this was filmed a little while back. That's my Gigabyte Jig Rat. Stop yourself damaging the rods, which makes a lot of sense because those rods they're quite fragile. If you like quite often you see a lure hanging from my rod. I really don't recommend that because that lead hits the rod. That's the end of the rod. That rod's that's a nice lure, a very brightly coloured foxy lure. Now I think I've just sent that down, on a very deep wreck. If I remember, I know I caught fish. I was expecting if I hooked into a bass at that depth, well, I think we're like sort of 106, the deepest wreck we fished that day. I expected it to be absolutely huge. Sadly, this was not the case, but it was good to be able to fish a lure down in about 170 foot and keep in contact quite easily with the bottom. And the tide is running there as well. I believe that's the heaviest foxy lure that I've got at the moment, which can't remember what size that is. It might be a 90 gram, but I was quite chuffed with that because I don't think we've got bass off that wreck. It's like I got my slow pitch jigging rod in my hand. That enables me to go a bit deeper. I'd lay money. Something about slow pitch jigging and pouncing. They seem to go hand in hand. Maybe it's because I'm fishing close to the deck. But pouncing seems to love slow jigs. Quite what happened to the audio on this video, I'll never know. It's got something to do with a wireless microphone, which is a little bit intermittent, so you have to excuse the voiceover for the time being. Yes, bouncing. That's 130 grams slow pitch jig. He's got a mackerel there. It enables to get down there a little bit quicker. Ray's just had a bass. I've got a feeling we've moved inside now. We've come off the deeper wrecks. It's a little bit chaotic with the editing on this video, I'm afraid. But as soon as we came in, we were into bass straight away. And I'm into an absolutely huge, what I thought, yes. At this minute in time, I thought I'd hooked the biggest bass I've ever hooked in my life. It stayed really, really deep. I think I was saying to Ray at the time, I'm into a good double here without a doubt. And it fought differently to any bass that I've ever caught. That's a hell of a bend in my Nebula SP. And it was gradually getting it to the surface. And if I'd lost that fish, I would have lost a bass that would have been about, well, I shudder to think, well into double figures. So I was quite excited, to say the least. In fact, I timed this, has been editing. I think it took me 3 minutes to get it up before we saw it. In that time, Ray actually caught a bass and put it back. Yes, I won't forget that moment. That's Ray going to get the net ready for my first double-figured bass on the lure. I actually did think I was into a cod. Didn't feel like a pollock, but I thought it could be a decent sized cod. I was a bit gutted at this minute in time, even though it was the best bass of the day for me, but it had been foul hooked inside, and that had thrown me completely. You can see me getting the lure out of it. It just completely threw me on the fight. It felt a lot heavier than it actually was. I've had quite a few bass around about that size. Never mind, it's all exciting stuff. After that, it was just bass. Ray started to catch up. Not yet, but he soon did. I have to say, the Foxy lures are absolutely superb. They're the nearest equivalent to a Fiiish Black Minnow that I've actually found to date. I really can't understand why. All of a sudden, there's a few companies in the UK making weedless lures in this sort of way. Oops, looks like I might have lost that one. Ray looks absolutely gutted. I had a bit of a numbers competition today. Yep, giving him the net as he starts to catch up. But no, the Foxy lures they're really soft. They use the same hooks, the fish frog hooks, which are without a doubt the best hooks I've used for this sort of business. Not only are they very sharp, very strong, they don't corrode, they stay sharp. When you're going out and catching 20 or 30 bass in a day, some lures blunt really quickly. That's one of my favourite Guinness coloured lures. Interestingly, on this day, it does seem to be the blueback lure scored. It was actually catching most of my fish on that blueback, and I was well ahead of Ray until some rash did the tail. Once I lost that colour, maybe it's psychosomatic, my catch rate went downhill and Ray started to catch up. When we were out on the wreck earlier, I was using 80 and 90 gram lures. When we moved into this area, I'm using 50 and 60 gram lures. Interestingly though, Ray started catching me up quite quickly, and I don't think this is actually, I think I'd swapped off the fish lure. I actually stopped using the Foxy lures because they've got quite soft bodies, and when you catch a number of bass, they won't, if you catch like 7 or 8 fish on a lure, and they start to look a bit beaten up, whereas the Storm Biscay lures I've got an open hook. One of those I've actually had, well, I reckon I've had 60 bass on it, and now it needs to be repaired. A bit of super glue and it'll probably be good for another 60. But it's got an open hook, it'd be absolutely no use on the wrecks whatsoever. Yeah, another thoroughly enjoyable day. The weather wasn't as good as it could have been, but yeah, it's all shaping up quite well. Now the bigger bass should be moving into the wrecks, in my opinion. Hopefully now's the time we can actually possibly get a really decent bass. And like one Ray's just about to show the camera was a cracker. That was probably the best bass we've had in the day. This is the time of year when you get them on the wrecks, and you can quite often find that is the average size of the bass, hopefully. I know Ray managed to catch one a lot bigger than that the following week. It's interesting that we had a commercial boat behind us in that picture, and commercials know exactly what they're doing. They're fishing for money, and they usually, I would think we were catching a lot more fish than they were at this time watching them, but you don't know what they'd actually had. They use different tactic to us. If they're going to use a lure, they use a lot of weight with it, fish it on a longer leader. Commercial bass anglers have got an uncanny knack of getting through to bigger fish. That's probably because they're targeting the bigger fish, so they're worth a lot more money to them. Well, I could be completely wrong, and that might not be a commercial, it could be a leisure angler. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video. I'm really sorry about the soundtrack. The verdict of the video is that the Foxy lures were just as good as I wouldn't say that I won the competition that day. I think we ended up about, definitely towards the end, Ray caught up with the Fiiish Black Minnow lures, but I'd actually stopped using the Foxy lures and switched to the Storm Biscay lures. And they seem to want, on the rough ground, they seem to want a smaller lure. So it's not not perfect, but they're a fantastic lure. They're a sensible price. I think on the bigger sizes they're almost half the cost. I will try and put a link in the description so you can purchase these. They're in development at the minute as well.